Good morning, everybody. Hope your holiday Monday goes well. And we've spent a lot of time lately, a lot of time talking about free agency, talking about this offseason, talking about the players that we could lose, talking about the players that we could redo their contracts, talking about all this different stuff. And now it's time to put it all together. It's time to start putting it all together into a dream. Well, let's just start with the free agency part of it. Let's start with a dream offseason as it regards specifically free agency. So, this video will be encompassing a scenario in free agency that I really like. And I'm going to call this scenario the go for it scenario. We want to win the Super Bowl this year and maybe the next year. We are going for it these next 2 years. And we understand that after that period of time, we're going to have to maybe go through a lean year or two. That's the nature of the beast. So this is kind of taking a look at the way Pete Carroll was acting right after that 49ers playoff loss. If you look at the way he was structuring, the way he was saying things, if you take a look at the way he was framing things, kind of sounded like he was about ready to go for it. That game seemed to really disturb him, and he doesn't want to see something like that happen again. And the implication was he was ready to take the plunge. And look, he's not going to be here forever. He's the oldest coach in the league as is, and we're going to get new ownership in the coming years. We already basically been told that. Yeah, not directly, but it's very clear that's going to be what happens here. And the new owner is probably going to want his own coach. That's how it typically works. So you can either just hang around and hope to get lucky and have some amazing draft class that comes in and saves you and produces like 6 Pro Bowl starters in 1 year. You know, you can wish upon a lucky star for stuff like that, or you can just go make it happen. This scenario is a way to go out and make it happen and overextend yourself and cause problems in future seasons, yes. But sometimes that's what you have to do. So this is the scenario specifically for free agency because that's been what all my videos have been about lately. I'll be presenting alternate scenarios in the future, but this is my go for it scenario. If you want to take the plunge, try to win the Super Bowl in 2023, try to win Super Bowl 58, here's a scenario. All right, let's start with salary cap clearing moves. And there are quite a few that we need to make. Release. 3 guys in this scenario get released from the Seahawks. Gabe Jackson honestly probably needs to retire, but if he doesn't, then you release him. Save $6.5 million. I don't think I need to elaborate here. The dude can't even really make it through a full game. And when he does play, he's not even that good. So there's really not much to talk about there. Second release would be Al Woods. I like Al a lot, but age is clearly starting to become a problem for him. And he's only going to get older. And I think we started to see this last year, where Al Woods missed games with an injury that I think a younger man would have just been mildly annoyed by. That's what happens when you get older. The injuries that would have normally just annoyed you are now keeping you out of football games for weeks at a time. So Al Woods is a release. You save about $3.75 million. And if you are allowed to do it, I don't know if this is actually something you can do because of the ACL tear, I release Brian Monet. And that frees up $2.8 million approximately. We gave him that contract, and then we basically didn't play him. And when he did play, he didn't play well. He had like 1 good game all year. 1. So, out. Nothing else to say other than I don't know who signed him. I don't know who offered him that contract. But I have a feeling it wasn't Pete Carroll because Pete Carroll doesn't seem to think he's any good because he won't play him. Like, I don't know. That whole thing was weird. Restructures. All right, I got 2 restructures for you. I got Tyler Lockett, redo his contract, convert base to bonus, get his cap hit down in 2023 by about 5.75. If you look at Lockett's contract, we're kind of married to him for the next couple years anyway. I don't think restructuring and kicking some of that bonus money out to future years is really going to change anything. I feel like we're kind of stuck to him anyway. And look, he's playing really well. And he's found a way to play football that doesn't abuse his body in an overly destructive way. So I have no problem sticking with Lockett for another couple of years. So make it happen. My other restructure would actually be Will Dissly. And this one's going to be controversial because it does make him a lot harder to cut next year. But again, we are going for it. And sometimes when you go for it, you have to take uncomfortable risks. But I'm getting Dissly's cap hit down by $2.2 million this year. And I'm going to deal with the consequences later because he's not going anywhere. That's already been confirmed as of several days ago. And I want to get his cap hit down just a little bit in 2023. And then we are extending a few players here. And again, I expect a little bit of controversy here. Not everyone's going to agree with me about these three. But I am being aggressive. I am saying, let's try to win the Super Bowl now in this specific scenario. We have Uchenna Nwosu. I think that one is the one who's not going to be controversial at all because he played so well. I am approaching him and offering him a long-term deal. I proposed it to be about 3 years, 42, maybe 45 million. And that will reduce his cap hit significantly in the first year. I estimated a savings of about 4 3/4. So Uchenna Nwosu becomes a long-term Seahawk. He's clearly good enough for it. He's outplayed his current contract. And if we wait a year to try to extend him, he's going to be much more expensive. So get it done now. I say 3 years 42, maybe 3 years 45. Get that cap hit down. Make it happen. I also have Shelby Harris, and this one's a little uncomfortable, admittedly, but here's the thing. If I'm going for it, there is no way on God's green earth that I can go into a season where I'm going for it when I have Shelby Harris sitting on a $12.75 million cap hit. So I need to get that cap hit down. I can either release him or I can extend him. In this scenario, I extend him. I offer him something like 3 years, $24 million. And that gives him long-term security, but it allows us to get our cap hit down on him significantly that first year. I got it down by 6 3/4, approximately. So Shelby Harris has been extended. We've committed to him for a couple years beyond this year. I think he's still a pretty good player. Obviously, he wasn't great last year, but he's the one guy on this defensive line from 2022 who I look at and go, I think he can be part of a good defensive line. Maybe he'll be a guy coming in off the bench. Maybe he won't be a full-time starter, but he can play significant snaps on a defensive line that I think is one of the better defensive lines in the league. You give him the right teammates. You bring in the Jalen Carters of the world. You bring in the Daron Paynes of the world, etc., etc. Let Shelby Harris be your third or fourth guy on the line. I think he can play well. So, extending Shelby Harris. Final guy, and this one's really going to be controversial because a lot of people don't think he's any good, and in fairness, he's certainly not great. He's far from great. Quentin Jefferson. I'm extending him by 1 year, and I'm appending another $4 million onto that deal. So his 1 year, $6 million deal becomes a 2 year, $10 million deal. You move the cap hit forward a little bit, and you save $2.5 million on the season. Quentin Jefferson played well at the end of the season. He did. He actually was making plays in the backfield. He was probably our best defensive lineman in the last month of the season. I truly believe that. Now, some of that is indicative of the fact that he was playing against tired offensive linemen at the end of the season, and that doesn't make him a great all-around player, but I think he's good enough to be part of a defensive line rotation, and that's worth something. Okay. So that would be the restructurings, the extendings, the cuttings, the releasings. Let's move on to the restricted and exclusive rights free agents. These are the guys who are outgoing free agents for the Seahawks that the Seahawks can kind of choose to do what they will with because they're either exclusive rights or restricted. And if you want to know what those mean, go back and watch my videos that I posted several weeks ago about how the tenders work. But just to go over it real quickly here, I would tender ERFAs, Godwin Igwebuike, for $1.1 million. I would tender John Radigan for $940,000. And I would tender Miles Adams for $870,000. Godwin Igwebuike is clearly shown himself to be an above average, maybe even good, maybe even really good kick returner. That's worth $1 million in a roster spot. We're going to need significant middle linebacker help. So John Radigan gets to stick around, has a chance to play this year. And Miles Adams, he's definitely worth $870,000. And in all likelihood is worth a good deal more than that, just based off the little bit that we've seen from him. I'm excited to see where Miles Adams goes with his career at this point, and $870,000 is nothing. Okay, I'm also tendering, and these are your restricted free agents. We have Mike Jackson. I am tendering him at the 5th round level, also known as the right of first refusal level, $2.63 million. $2.63 million, 1 year, Mike Jackson. If anybody wants him, they can offer him more and give us a 5th rounder back. I am also doing the same thing with Tanner Muse. 1 year, $2.63 million. 3rd round pick if anybody wants to poach Tanner Muse, which I don't think that's going to happen. But regardless, you get to keep Tanner Muse. We need middle linebacker depth. And finally, I am tendering Ryan Neal at the 2nd round level. So $4.31 million approximately for 1 year. 2nd round pick if anybody wants to take him from us. And they also have to offer him more than our offer. So you're getting a really high-end safety who played phenomenally well in 2022 for $4.31 million in case Jamal gets hurt. And you are also retaining some intriguing cornerback and middle linebacker depth. You're also keeping some other pieces of random depth, special teamer, for very cheap and reasonable prices. Very happy with the way these tenders break out for the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, now we are moving on to the guys we are re-signing going into the offseason. These are guys who are outgoing Seahawks that I want to keep. First up, we're re-signing Geno Smith. And I know some people are not going to like this. Some people are going to be mad about this. If you want to go for it, okay, here's what I'm going to say. If you want to go for it in 2023, who else can be our quarterback? I am talking about going for a Super Bowl. Who else are you going to get? If you want somebody better than Geno, he's going to cost way more. You know, if you want somebody like Lamar Jackson's going to cost... his contract might be 3 times Geno's contract. That's possible. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's going to be a lot more than Geno. And then you're going to have to integrate him with an offensive coordinator that has never had a quarterback like that before. Do you think Daniel Jones is better than Geno? Do you think Derek Carr is better than Geno? Do you think 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is better than Geno? Probably not. You want to try to go win the Super Bowl with Drew Lock when he's never proven he can even be an average quarterback? You want to try to win the Super Bowl with a rookie when that's never happened before? With 20-year-old or 21-year-old CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson? No. If you want the Seahawks to go for the Super Bowl in 2023, Geno Smith is by far the best option on the table. So I'm offering him 3 years, $96 million, first-year cap hit of $15 million. Make it happen. And I believe that if you build the team around Geno Smith right, you can win the Super Bowl with him. It's not going to be easy. You'd prefer to have Pat Mahomes. And it might suck in the last couple years of this contract because you're not going to be able to build the team out as robustly as you can this year. Such is the cost of going for a Super Bowl. I'm also re-signing Rashad Penny to a 1-year, $3 million deal. It's not that hard to be worth $3 million in this league right now. I'm putting $1 million of it into a void year hit, so $2 million cap hit that for 1 year. So Rashad Penny gets to be one of our depth running backs behind Ken Walker and possibly behind whoever else we bring in this offseason. And I do believe we will probably bring in somebody in the draft. Also bringing back Marquise Goodwin on the same contract, 1 year, $3 million, $2 million cap hit, $1 million in a void year. Don't be surprised, by the way, if Goodwin ends up going for less than $3 million. He's coming off a season where he got hurt after accepting the vet min, so he might take the vet min again. This is just kind of like pointing out how high I'd be willing to go more than anything. If Marquise Goodwin wants more than $3 million, then I'm moving on. Same with Rashad Penny. If Geno wants more than $32 million a year, he can move on, and I'll find a better solution. That's basically what these numbers are trying to indicate. I am bringing back Phil Haynes for the minimum, $1.08 million. He didn't play very well in 2022. I wasn't impressed with him. I was disappointed in him, in fact. But he's not terrible. He's not bad. He's just kind of average. He has versatility. He can play left side and right side. And I don't see any reason why he would be desirable beyond the vet min. So I think you can retain him for the vet min. You just have to make the offer. I am bringing back Cody Barton, and I don't want to, but I think I have to. And the reason why I say that is because our middle linebacker depth is just so bad right now that you need to bring in somebody who at least has played competently for you in the past. And Cody Barton has. Not really ever played good, but he does have strengths as a player. He has experience playing extensive snaps at this point. He can do some things well. He's just really, really bad in some areas. And he will probably be better if you give him a good defensive line in front of him. So if we build out the defensive line a little bit better, he will probably look a little bit better. Now, I'm going to say 2 years, $8 million. And if he needs more than that, if somebody is offering more than that, then yes, I think at a certain point you have to say it's not worth it. We're going to get Jordan Brooks back eventually. We can draft some players. We've got Tanner Muse. We've got John Radigan. We can try to make something work and just hope our defensive line is good enough to make our linebackers look a little better than they are. But as things stand right now, when we're going to be leaning heavily this year on Jordan Brooks coming off a massive injury, and Tanner Muse and John Radigan and rookies and random guys that we probably don't even know about yet, I need Cody Barton back as long as he's willing to play for 2 years, $8 million, which I think is within the realm of possibility. I'm also bringing back Nick Bellore. We need him on special teams. We need him as a two-way player as well. $2 million first-year cap hit on a 2-year, $5 million deal. After thinking about it, after thinking about his age, after thinking about the fact that he hasn't made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years, I think 2 years, $5 million probably gets it done. If he needs like 2 years, $6 million, I'm probably okay with that as well. But at a certain point, you have to be willing to walk away from a guy who is ultimately 34 years old. And finally, I am also re-signing Tyler Ott for the Vetmin, 1 year, $1.17 million. Whichever long snapper you want is fine between him and Carson Tinker, but I'm bringing back Ott, $1.17 million approximately. No problem. Every team needs a long snapper, so if not Tyler Ott, it's going to be another guy who costs about the same. And that's really all there is to it. So these are the guys I'm re-signing, which does take up a good chunk of the cap hit, but I did clear a lot just now, meaning we can go to open free agency. And my open free agency is going to be very simple and straightforward. There's not going to be a ton of action, but I want to remind everybody before we move on to it, we have a lot of draft picks. So I am counting on being able to fill some of our holes with those picks. So, we are signing Daron Payne, and I am aware of the fact that you may have to trade for him. Daron Payne might cost you one of your second-round picks, maybe even your 20th overall first-round pick. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. Daron Payne is a very good player, and he gives you two-way ability as a run defender and a pass rusher, and we need a superstar on that defensive line. We do. I'm tired of messing around with guys who are decent and hoping that we can get 5 decent players and combine them into one superstar. It doesn't work. If you want an omelet, you got to crack eggs, all right? And Jalen Carter by himself or Tyree Wilson by himself is not going to be enough. It's a start, but it's not going to be good enough if you really are trying to build a team that is capable of winning the Super Bowl. So I'm going to trade for Daron Payne, maybe give up my first-round pick. That's fine. I can live with that. And then I'm offering 5 years, $97 million, first-year cap hit of about $9 million. And yes, that is completely reasonable. Big contracts in the NFL are heavily backloaded like this all the time. And that's really my big splash. I have a couple other little moves I want to make here. I'm bringing in a backup center, Scott Kessenberry, for $1.2 million. Honestly, there are a collection of backup centers I would be totally fine with. Kessenberry's just one of them. If you want to bring back Kyle Fuller or Austin Blythe to be your backup center, that's fine too. If you want to bring in probably 5 or 6 other guys who bounce around the league from year to year to be your backup center, that's fine. But we got to be cheap here. So 1.2 million, that's what I would go for a backup center here. Solomon Thomas. Need some depth on the defensive line of backup level players who are not going to cost that much money, but can play snaps. 1 year, $2 million. No problem. Should get it done. He didn't do much last year, and he had a $2.5 million deal. He'll be happy to get $2 million. And then I'm bringing in John Jenkins to be your backup nose tackle. 1.2 million, which is roughly in line with the kinds of contracts he always gets. He always gets a 1 year, approximately minimum deal. Bring him in, let him be the backup nose tackle, quality depth in case somebody gets hurt in front of him. And that's it. That's really all I want to do in open free agency in terms of things that are actually worth talking about. You add it all up, by the way. I did the math. You take into account every move I just made. Rookie, add the rookie pool, add practice squad money. It leaves the Seahawks with about $3 or $4 million in the black. Okay, that's my dream offseason, scenario 1. Coming back later with more scenarios. Let me know what you guys think. Peace out. Go Hawks.